Author's note: this is a work of fan fiction created with deep respect and admiration for the original works of Masashi Kishimoto, Naruto, and Clamp Magic Knight Rayearth. I do not own any of the characters, concepts, or world building from either series. All rights belong to their respective creators.
This story reimagines a world where Itachi Uchiha is allowed to live not as a shinobi burdened by war, but as a man who finds peace and love beside a girl named Hikaru, drawn from both ninja and magical realms. This is not a shounen tale of battle and ambition. This is a shoujo journey of emotion, memory, and quiet strength. Special thanks to Izumi Uchiha, a graceful shadow from the past, and to Lantis, a solemn guardian from another world. Their presence shaped the hearts of those who continue forward. The past cannot be undone, but maybe, just maybe, it can be redeemed. Chapter 1. Shadows over the hidden village. The final light of day slipped beyond the horizon, bleeding into soft indigo shadows that clung to the rooftops of Konoha. Families laughed as stalls shuddered and shinobi drifted through alleys like smoke. But peace, Itachi knew, was never without shadow. He stood alone atop a tall rooftop, where the wind whispered like an old friend and the village stretched beneath him like a dream he could never fully grasp. The scent of firewood and rain still lingered in the air, lacing his lungs with bittersweet familiarity. The streets had changed, new homes, new faces, but the ache in his chest had not. Uchiha Itachi, a man who died for the village, a ghost who returned, not for redemption, but for something more fragile, watchfulness. He had shed the label of traitor after the war, but the weight of what he had done, the massacre, the silent deception, the lie still lived in him, stitched into his very breath. His chest tightened with every memory as he pressed a hand over his heart. Yet he remained, watching, guarding, loving from afar. His once bright eyes now held the weariness of lifetimes. And tonight, beneath the cloak of twilight, he sensed something unusual stirring the air. A flicker, a shift at the edge of Konoha's chakra field. Movement graceful, purposeful, unknown, and yet strangely familiar. His Mangekyo flared, sending ripples through the atmosphere. This energy, it felt ancient and wilder than chakra. Like the breath of a storm held in silence too long. Without a sound, he vanished into the air, leaving only the echo of anticipation. Beyond the walls, at the forest's edge, where ancient trees met shadowed borders, a cloaked figure stood beneath the moonlight. Silver embroidery shimmered on her collar, a symbol no one in this world would recognize. Yet, to another world, she was everything. Hikaru Shido, princess, pillar, sword of her realm. Once a child of Konoha, the wind teased her long red braids, hints of her power shimmering in each braid. Her boots pressed into soul that once knew her footsteps, soul humming with memory, as though the earth exhaled her name. It was humid here, dense with memory, not just chakra but grief, hope, echoes. She didn't intend to return, yet here she stood, heart hammering against writ and bone. With every breath, she tasted both worlds, damp earth and electric flare memory. Now, the village rose before her like a fragile dream. She didn't speak its name. She didn't need to. Its silence said everything, welcome, and yet a warning. A sudden presence swept behind her, silent, but sharper than any blade's breath. Her pulse jerked, heart pounding, breath catching in throat. You're not from here. The voice was low and cool, edged with steel, cold enough to press frost over her spine. She turned, slowly. Time wavered. He stood at the tree line, cloak brushing the earth like dust made flesh. Crimson, ancient eyes locked onto hers, a gaze that once cradled her childhood, now cautious and unreadable. Itachi. The world held its breath. Neither moved, neither drew a weapon. They simply stood, two souls isolated by years and worlds floating in charged silence. You've changed. His words drifted, fragile as petals on a stream. A faint smile tugged at her lips before she spoke. So have you. Itachi's gaze trembled, recognition flaring before retreating. A memory of a younger version of her flashed, bright laughter, earnest eyes. What brings you back? His voice held a softness edged with caution. I didn't know, she replied, voice tight with emotion. The path did. His eyes narrowed, observing the unfamiliar pulse of elemental power in her veins. A flicker of hope or fear sparked. She gazed at the village lights. This place carries echoes. Itachi stepped forward, each footfall measured but unsteady. I remember you, she whispered, voice and firm memory bleeding through the words. Her throat tightened. He closed his eyes briefly, grief washing over his features. Below it all, something dangerous stirred and it bound them both. We were young when they made a promise for us. Soft confession, laden with lost years. His voice cracked. The promise that died with the old world. Her gaze hardened, defiant, tender. But not with me. The wind shifted, carrying the bittersweet scent of jasmine and ash. The look on his bones, chakra cold, old and hungry, stirred by her presence. I don't know why I'm here, she said, breath catching. But I don't believe it's by accident. His eyes softened, steel melting into sorrow. Konoha isn't kind to those who return. I didn't return for kindness, she replied, tone steady despite the tremor in her chest. And I won't explain myself to ghosts. He studied her, everything in him trembling between weariness and longing. The girl he once knew was gone, now stood a warrior, a flame. You carry something strange, he said quietly, awestruck, fearful. She raised a hand, crimson lightning tracing delicate patterns across her fingers, an aura of power in the dark. Not chakra, she whispered, voice soft yet resonant. Something deeper, flame, thunder, and the sword. Their eyes locked, past and present frozen in their gaze, a bond bound by blood and destiny. Itachi felt an undercurrent of power that didn't belong to this world. Like a current shaped by a different sky, a different time. He couldn't name it, but it unsettled something old in his bones. A question nested quietly in Itachi. Where had she been all these years, to return with such power? A distant bell tolled, each chime like a heartbeat, echoing in stone and sky. Something had been awakened. The balance had shifted, and shadows, once buried, began to stir. Itachi stepped forward, voice barely above a whisper, vulnerability threading through his tone. Whatever brought you here isn't finished yet. Her chest tightened, resolve coaling in her spine. The bloodline remembers,